Ifs, buts, and maybes. That is essentially what weather forecasting is all about. And the continuation of excitement, disappointment, excitement, variation in your feelings towards a white Christmas continues, and it will continue over the next several days. Thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook, the latest ECMWF, midnight on Christmas Eve, so Sunday the 24th of December. This is how the synoptic situation looks on the current model run. So we've got several areas of low pressure with on top of a 1030 millibar high to the west of Iberia, as you can see here. Area of low pressure moving into the near continent. We've got reasonably strong winds moving through parts of Ireland, England, and Wales. Lighter winds across northern areas. Deep area of low pressure in the Baltic states, as you can see, and another area of low pressure to the west of the UK and Ireland here. Let's have a look at the 850 temperature chart of the model. And no surprise, we've got a divide, a big fight between cold air across the north, possible wintry situation to the north, milder conditions further south. With that area of high pressure at 1030 plus millibars, between the Azores and Iberia, you've always got the risk of milder air moving into the southern half of the UK with this situation. Looking at snow depth of the same chart for the same time, you've got a decent amount of snow actually across the far north of England and much of Scotland, as you can see. The bulk of England, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland is void of snow, a decent amount of snow cover across the central portions of Europe. Now let's have a look at the GFS model here for the same time frame and including Christmas. So the differences that we have, we've got an area of high pressure, that Azores high, kind of poking its nose a little bit further north, as you can see here, during the course of Christmas Eve. We've got an area of low pressure moving in. We've got snow, cold air across more northern areas of the British Isles here. So we've got a wintry situation towards the second half of Christmas Eve. Then things get rather interesting as we move to midnight, Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. You've got an area of 977 or 997. I'll get there. 997 millibar low pressure system that is moving in. So it's bringing in milder air off the Atlantic, but there's cold air in place. That means that we have an outbreak of snow anywhere from the North Midlands up the higher elevations of Cumbria into southwestern and central Scotland. Snow showers further north here, and then as we skip across, you can see here that we've got that big divide between colder air to the north, milder air to the south. Even as we move later into the day, you can see here that there's heavy snow breaking out. What is the 850 temperature profile according to this chart? Let's have a look and see. So this is just cherry picking the two latest runs of the models. So there you go. Similar to the ECMWF, but we have milder air a little bit further north. Very cold air across the majority of Scotland, as you can see. Milder air across the rest of the country. A lot of cold air over the continent. You can see here that we've got the mildest air across the southwest. How is snow cover looking off the GFS? Similar again to the ECMWF. But folks, we're still over a week away. My mum and dad are travelling down to Shropshire for Christmas. They're going down on Thursday, and my dad keeps saying to me, what's the weather going to be like when we're down in Shropshire for Christmas? And I keep saying to him that I don't know. I simply do not know what we're on a knife edge, and often is the case. Only 4 times since 1960 has there been a widespread snow cover on Christmas Day across the British Isles. That means it is a rare event. Now, the Met Office definition of a white Christmas is a single snowflake. Now, I've seen a couple of conflicting reports actually, even from the BBC and the Met Office, saying that if you see a single snowflake on Christmas Day, that constitutes a white Christmas. To me, that's utter nonsense, because you've got a single snow. You could have rain mixing with sleet, sleet mixing with snow, and to me that is a silly that is a silly definition of snow on Christmas. in my opinion, the American definition I think is better. I believe it's 1 inch of snow on the ground on Christmas Day constitute. It doesn't have to snow on Christmas Day for it to be white. So let me know in the comments section below actually what you think of that. Do you agree with the Met Office definition or do you agree with the American definition? So to recap, the UK, according to the Met Office, it's a single flake of snow in the air on Christmas Day constitutes a white Christmas. The Americans say it's at least 1 inch of snow on the ground or more. To me, if you get a covering of snow on Christmas Day, that's a white Christmas, in my opinion. Also, what I thought was the case, but it hasn't been confirmed this year, is that I thought a single flake of snow had to be measured, it had to be reported at an official Met Office weather station. So I'm not sure. There's a little bit of not contradiction as such, but there's a little bit of confusion. That's probably the best way to put it with regards to a definition of a white Christmas. Yes, I suppose most of us want a white Christmas. Are we going to see one? It's a 50-50 chance, I think, especially across more northern areas of the British Isles. I think you've got a lesser chance of seeing it further south. But I want to go back to the big picture. I think instead of it just honing in on whether it be Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or Boxing Day, I think statistically speaking, you have probably a greater chance of seeing snowfall on Boxing Day as opposed to Christmas Day. The reason why I say that is because I don't know how many Christmases I've seen where it's not happened on Christmas Day, but we've had snow on the ground on Boxing Day or maybe the 27th. Quite often, the week between Christmas and New Year has some sort of a snow event as well. So there's a lot of attention being drawn on the white Christmas aspect. Let me know, are you eager, excited about the prospect of a white Christmas, or do you simply not care less? I would be curious to know in the comments section below what you think of that. But I want to go back to the fundamental big picture here, because what was said in the winter forecast versus what is potentially taking place now. I've harped on for time and time again about the Mann-Julian oscillation. The reason why is because the pattern has been working very well with that teleconnection. Now let's go back to basics. What's the positive and what's the negative Arctic oscillation? The positive Arctic oscillation is when you've got cold air bottled up across the Arctic region. You've got a strong jet stream ripping across both Pacific, North America, the Atlantic, and Europe here, driving mild air off the ocean into the continents. A negative Arctic oscillation is a weaker jet stream, displaced often to the south, and you've got cold air released from the Arctic into the middle latitude pattern. What is the the North Atlantic oscillation, you ask? My dad says he switched off the other day when I started talking about the NAO and the negatives and the positives, and I understand that. Probably quite a lot of people do. But these are important drivers when it comes to the weather, especially the North Atlantic oscillation for North America and for Europe. A positive mode of the North Atlantic oscillation is when you've got cold air up towards Greenland, you've got milder air. So basically lower pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, higher pressure across the Azores, strong jet stream in between. Again, like the Arctic oscillation, you've got that one system after another. The Atlantic is the dominant player for the UK, Ireland, and Western Europe. The negative Arctic North Atlantic oscillation is when you've got the opposite. You've got higher pressure towards Iceland and Greenland. You've got a weaker high pressure over the Azores. You tend to find that the jet stream is forced to the north up towards Greenland, and you've got colder air coming down from the polar region into the UK and Ireland and into Western Europe in general. So what has been said when it comes to the December forecast on the winter forecast itself? There is a link in the description below. You can check this out at your leisure if you haven't already done so. And what I want to look at here is the situation with regards to the MJO and the big picture. The negative QBO is an interesting one. That tends to help frictional effect on the jet stream. It weakens the polar vortex as well. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in the coming days as well. I've been touching on that back and forth, of course, in each daily video here. But as you can see, I'm delaying myself because I'm trying to find the appropriate section in the winter forecast. So this is all freely available for you to check out, of course, on marthoganweather.com. Like I said, the link is in the description below. So, what was said about December? Well, I talked about while blocking should continue over Greenland and the Arctic and the Atlantic for the most part, it should continue to dominate Western Europe through at least the mid-month. After a cold start, colder conditions shall prevail over Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, with potential significant snowfall, Alps, Balkans, Romania, Turkey, Ukraine, etc. There's a question mark with regards to the run-up to Christmas. So while I thought there would be a warming trend during the bulk of the central portion of the month, cold start, possible cold end, with the MJO rotating through phases 2, 3, 4 and 5 during the middle portion of the month, that is exactly what we're seeing take place now. Warmer conditions now in play. We could see a record warm night for Scotland if the temperature stays above 12.3 for a minimum. That's a big if, of course. But temperatures 12, 13 Celsius easily across the Murray Coast, thanks to winds, the Fern effect, etc., etc. So, I suspect the MJO may attempt a return towards phases 7. Remember, this was released back at the very start of the month, eventually shifting into 8 and 1. This increases the return to colder for the UK and Ireland, so I wouldn't be surprised to see moderate chance of snow, especially for Scotland. Overall, near average temperatures for the UK and Ireland, colder for Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, warmer Iberia, France, wetter for the southern UK versus the northern UK. And we've seen nearly a month's worth of rain in the southern half of the UK this month versus only, I think, only about 15-20% of average rainfall across the north due to that displaced jet stream situation. This is the temperature profile, 2-meter temperature anomaly so far through the first 13 days of December, and you can see here that the UK, for the majority of it, is colder than average. Look at Scandinavia, and if we look back, by the way, you can see here that we had a cold November across the northern UK and Scandinavia. Even going back to the month of October, the northern UK was average, even marginally below average. So it's interesting we've had that cold trend since the beginning of October. Go back to the month of September and it was warm across the board, but it's interesting nonetheless to see this trend to colder across the northern UK and northern Europe in general, and that is the month of December so far. Looking at this is the GFS ensemble. Upcoming 5 days, we've got the strongest area of high pressure over the southern UK, northern France. That's going to settle things down big time. Ongoing flood situation across the north of France continues. Strongest winds, weather systems riding around the top of that high. Far north of the UK may see some heavy rainfall. Strongest winds, mildest temperatures, by the way, across the far north. This is the 6 to 10. So you can see here a big temperature difference. As that high slides to the west, we need to then allow, essentially expect colder air to come in. You can see the difference here, 2 meters. So this is the upcoming 5 days. Very, very mild compared to average. That is your phase 4 and 5 of the MJO. Then if we look at the 6 to 10, you can see the trend to colder, especially across the north. And in the 11 to 15, you can see that we've got that warm south, cold north scenario. And the reason why is because of the MJO, I think. We started off on the 26th of November, phase 2. Then it rotated through the warm phases. Now we're edging back towards phase 7. And what does phase 7 mean? It means northerly blocking, Greenland high pressure, negative NAO, cold UK winter. But it's about amplitude. How strong it is in phase 7 remains to be seen. But you can see how we progress through the milder phases and we're going back towards the colder phases. So that question mark has merit with regards to the Christmas and New Year period here. So very interesting times to come. Be sure to check out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We'll look at Christmas in more detail as we go forward. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.